Evening and welcome to The Village, a virtual meeting space for educators to discuss what is most important to them. Lauren, our production assistant, has been given a temporary promotion while Bev is in Kenya. Side note, if you would like to follow Bev, she is writing a blog, which I'm sure is going to be endlessly entertaining, and that link will be included in the post-show material. But tonight we are going to be talking about apps that teachers can use for their classrooms. Our guests tonight include Allison Beatty. She is a history teacher at Springfield Renaissance School in Springfield. Myself, I am a science teacher at Chestnut Middle School, also in Springfield. And finally, we have Lisa Manzi, who is a technology teacher at Michael E. Smith Middle School in South Hadley, and also a professor for the MAT program here at Mount Holyoke. Before we get started with logistics, we would like to say that there is going to be an option to participate in an interactive demo. So if you would like to include yourself in that interactive demo, what you can do is send your phone number to Allison, who should be listed in this meeting as BDA, through the Zoom chat. So at the bottom, if you move your mouse over your screen, there's a button that says chat. You should be able to pick who you send it to and just send your phone number right to Allison so that she can include you in that demo.
Okay, so I'll just go through the format of tonight's session. Allison, as Lily mentioned, will begin by teaching us about Remind, followed by her interactive demo. And then Lily will discuss the Common Core app and an app called Class Dojo. And then Lisa Manzi will describe Socrative and Kahoot and show us a demo of how those apps work, which you're also welcome to participate in.
At this time, we're going to pass it over to Allison, who's going to be talking about Remind. So Allison, can you please turn on your mic and your video, and we'll get started.
Great. So I'm going to be talking about the Remind app, which I actually use to communicate with my parents and also my students. So I teach 8th grade history at the Springfield Renaissance School, and teaching in an urban district, they really value parent contact and parent communication, but it's really hard to do that, especially when you have lots of parents who work third shift or, don't have cell phones or anything like that. So I find it really useful. And if you put the legwork in early on in the school year, it really benefits overall. So I think, right, you are assessed on parent communication as one of your professional teaching standards. And so it really helps you meet that target. Making individual phone calls is very time consuming. So it's a good way to keep parents informed in a really short amount of time. So you can send a message, you can send a text message, or they can sign up with their email address if they don't have a phone, and they'll get the message when it's convenient for them, and you can send it when it's convenient for you. You can also schedule messages to be sent at a certain time, which is really useful. You can have lengthy conversations with them via text message, or sometimes I use it to say, I'd like to give you a call tonight. Is there a good time for me to call you? And then they know the phone call's coming. So it allows you to work that way. You don't have to leave voicemails for people who perhaps don't put an outgoing message on their phone. So if you're not sure if that's actually their phone number and you don't want to talk about a student because of confidentiality, it allows sort of that to go away as well. And then also language barriers. I have a couple students in my crew whose parents only speak Spanish, and the app lets you translate messages into, I think they have 40 or 50 different languages that they translate to. And this is all in the free version of the app. So I like to use it because updating parents on progress is really important to me. I have found that in an urban district, with parent support, the students are much more likely to work harder or be more invested in the results if they know that you're working with their parents and it's not this separate entity. So you can easily, update parents on something really small, or if their kid's having a great day, you can just shoot them a quick message. It allows you to send pictures, so you can send a picture of something cool their child just did in class. And then you can also send like general class updates. I have a big assessment coming up in my class this week, and I've been messaging parents to remind them that it's coming and that their students should be studying at home. So you can do the personal one-on-one, or you can do sort of group blasts. So it is a great tool for teachers. There is a free version and there's a paid for version. I use the free version because I really don't need anything above what the free version offers. And with a little time and effort spent, it can really be a useful tool for you. Like I said, I've seen that it helps students improve academically when they know that their parents are on board. Parents feel connected when they have a quick question. If they know how to message you really quickly, you know, they do that. Parents never hesitate to reach out to me on the app, especially because I use it very actively and they know that that's a good way to reach me. It also is a virtual record of your parent contact. So when it comes time to assess you on that standard, on that professional standard, you can get reports from Remind that show your parent contact and your level of communication with parents. And that'll help you receive a proficient or hopefully exemplary on this standard. So there are pros and there are cons of this system. I find to be much more pros than cons. So the first one is for pro is it's free, which is great. It can be used with smartphones, Android phones, you know, iPhones, it doesn't matter. And if they don't have a phone, it can also be used with email addresses. So if they don't have a phone number, they can put in their email, or you can put in their email, and it'll send it to them that way. Like I said before, it translates messages into other languages. So it really helps with that language barrier. Signing people up is really easy. They can sign up or you can sign them up. I've found in my practice that I have to sign most people up, but that's sort of the legwork in the beginning that I was talking about, but it's once you do, it's well worth it. It's a great platform. You can use it from your phone or your computer. I like to use it from my computer when I'm sending like big group blasts, but if a parent messages me, even during the school day, if I'm on my prep or at lunch, I can just shoot them a reply right back right from my phone. It's really quick. It's really easy to use. I learned it very quickly. And the best thing about it is that you don't have to share your personal phone number. It just goes all through the app. So, I have students on mine as well, and it's a way for them to email me with questions, maybe if they have a question on the homework or an upcoming test, or I've had a lot of students who have said, I'm going to be out, what am I going to miss, right? And so it's a good way to just connect with people without having to share your personal phone number. I am quite glad that I have not given my phone number to many people. But it also then means that you can just reply to them at your leisure, at your pace, right? The cons of it is that with a big group message, a bit like Twitter, the free version limits your number of characters. So if I have a lengthy announcement, I have to send sort of like 3 rapid fire back to back, but it still does the trick. It's just, it is what it is. And then in the beginning of the year, it takes time. It does take maybe 2 hours, I would say. That's probably all I invested in it. And the other con is you have to be willing to switch off at some point, right? I've had students message me at about 10:30 at night. And the teacher in me really is like, oh, I should reply to them, but you have to create boundaries as well. So, I've had parents message me at midnight, and as long as you just set your boundaries that you're not available all hours of the day and you reply when it's convenient for you to reply, then it can be a great thing to use. But if you're one of those people who feels pressured to reply really quickly, that could be a con for you. So here's just some samples of some messages I've had with parents from my actual Remind app. So these are 2 parents, and the top one on the left here, she was having an issue with other teachers communicating with her. So that's sort of another thing I found is that if you are too communicative, and then other teachers maybe are not as communicative, they tend to get grumpy about that. But as long as you're doing your job, I don't, see the problem in that. But she was upset that other teachers hadn't been reaching out. So, but as you can see, I reminded her that her student needs to make up an assessment, and that the last day, was that Monday. And so he did. He stayed after, and knowing this student, if I hadn't had his mom's support, he probably wouldn't have done it. And then the bottom one is I needed a project from a student, and she said 3 times, I sent it, and finally I messaged her mom to say, oh, I need this project from her, otherwise it's, going to be a 0. And so she kind of got her daughter to do it. So those are just sort of 2 examples from my actual classroom feeds. I also have a crew, which is sort of like an advisory group, and so I have a separate classroom for my crew and my crew parents. So you can create a bunch of different classrooms in your Remind, and so that's sort of what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to share my screen with you. We'll see if it works. Yes. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. So this is my Remind app, and I'm logged in right now. I'm under my US history section. So if I go to home, so this is sort of my home screen here, I can create a class. So I'm going to create a new class just for this demo. This is going to be sort of my classroom tonight, and then you can delete it straight afterwards. So, and it, I will only message people 13 or older. I just click yes. All my students are over 13. So you click create, and then I've got a couple phone numbers here that people send in. So I'm not going to use any names, but person 1, let's just put in these phone numbers. And then you just add people this way, right? It's really easy. You can add about 5 people in batches. And let's see. Okay, so those are the 2 phone numbers that I have right now. So I'm going to add these people. It'll say participants successfully added. And then those of you who gave me your phone number, you should have received a text message from Remind that says you've been added to Demo the Village. Now, so Lisa Manzi has the app on her phone already, so her name is populating in here. It would prompt the person to download the app, but they don't have to in order to receive and send messages. So that's the best thing I found about resistant parents is I just signed them up. So what I did in the beginning of the year, which I found very successful, was on my syllabus that I sent home with students, I put an entire section on the bottom of the syllabus about this app and about how I was using this app, and then I encouraged parents to sign up for reminders. And then on the signature page, I just put, sign me up for Remind, yes, no, I want more information. And if they didn't select no, I signed them up. And that's what I did. They didn't opt out, I signed them up to get announcements. And that's how I did it. So they could have signed up themselves. I put the code on my syllabus as well for them to sign up. But if they didn't, I just went in to add people over here and I signed them up. And it's been great. I haven't had any complaints. I don't obsessively send messages. I think that's the important thing, is not to bombard people with messages, but I do send sort of important assessment updates as general messages, or I individually private message people. So there's lots of ways you can add people. You can add people manually here with phone or email. You can get a printable PDF that shows people how to sign up if they want to just download the app and sign up. And you can see here they do it in a lot of different languages. So for my Spanish parents, I have printed a version of this out in Spanish and sent that home with them. In-person instructions, so you can just tell people to text a code to a number, or there's even a link you can share and email somebody. So there's lots and lots of ways to add people, but I've found that in a mass like sign up, this is the best way to do it. It's just easiest if you sign the people up, and it really doesn't take long. So I have a message here from Miss Manzi who says, why won't my kid do her homework, right? This is a private message. You can see here, it says the name over here. So, you know, hello, Mrs. Manzi. I'm sorry, but your student, you know, is being lazy. Now, I would, of course, never say that to a parent, but, you know, you can just see the message pops up on the screen there, and then Ms. Manzi would have seen that on her end, on her phone. This person got the message, which is great. If you want to send a group message, you just go up to the little compose button. You can do an individual message. So if you have a lot of people in your list, you can, you know, click individual message and search for their name, or you can send a class announcement. So this is sort of the standard one they do. As you can see in the bottom here, right, it's counting my characters. So that's what I meant about it limits your characters. But here, if you click translate, these are all the languages you could choose to translate your message into. I mean, there's a bunch of them. I've used Spanish, I've used Vietnamese, and I've used Somali. So it's really useful, and I know that once parents understand that it's available, they're really happy to do that. And then schedule. So this is where you can schedule. You can send it right away, or you can schedule it if you want it to go out Tuesday at, you know, 2:05 a.m. Why would you ever want to do that? But it's there. It's all broken down into 5-minute increments, and you just click schedule, and it goes. You can upload a photo, a video, a file, anything like that. And so I'm going to get rid of schedule, and I'm just going to send that out. And then it goes to this column here that says everyone. And that's how you send a group message. Now, in the background here, my phone is vibrating because every time I send a message through the desktop version, it also appears on my phone on the app. So I can, you know, see what I sent, and then that way, if people reply, I get it on my phone, and you get it on the desktop notification. So that's really sort of the basics. That's really as much as I do with it. There's not much more to do. If you need to look for people, you click on people, and it lists everyone in your group who's joined that classroom. On my U.S. history one, I probably have 98, I think, people, and it's a combination of students and parents. I didn't start with 98. I started with probably about 70 parents and students, but the more assessments I had during the year, or the more projects we were working on, people, you know, I would say to students, like, well, if you signed up for the app, you can ask me questions, you know, and so that's how I kind of roped kids into it as well, is sort of that, you know, if you're working on this and you have a question, contact me, right? Because that's what it's for. It's for you to ask questions. So somebody doesn't want them to study, but anyway. So it's a great app. I really love it. I mean, even on the snow day that just happened the other day, students were messaging me being like, what's going to happen with our big test? So, you know, it's just a good way. It says here it's outside your office hours. You can set office hours. I don't think I mentioned that. You can, you know, this is your profile and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, I usually set my office hours for 2 to 7 p.m. Even if you set them, you'll still get messages and you can still send messages. It just says it's outside your office hours. So at least people would know, like, oh, they probably won't reply, but you can still reply. So unless people have questions right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think unless there's questions, which I think might happen at the end, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Allison, for teaching us all about Remind, and thanks especially for the interactive part. I think that was really helpful for those of us who haven't used it yet, like myself. And so now we're going to transition into Lily teaching us all about the Common Core app and Class Dojo. So,
Thank you. So I don't have too much to say about the Common Core app other than it is very convenient. So this particular Common Core app is made by a company called Mastery Connect Inc. And just as a heads up, Mastery Connect Inc. makes a lot of apps for educators, including Socrative or Socrative, I'm really not sure which way, which Lisa is going to be talking about in just a bit. So if you head to their website, masteryconnectinc.com, I believe, they have links to all kinds of other really cool standards-based apps and formative assessment apps and etc. But I'm going to be talking about the Common Core app. So this app basically lists the standards. I found it really easy to do a quick lookup of standards because I'm a science teacher. I'm asked to make cross-content connections with ELA and math, and I am unable to make my way through those giant PDFs that Massachusetts puts out and the Common Core puts out. So this for me made it really easy to find the specific standard that I was looking for, and it makes me look pretty quick in front of those ELA and math teachers too. So I found it very useful for planning meetings, for cross-curricular connections, and if I'm looking for how to talk about the language of an informational text in my science class, I can look up the language of the standard in this app really quickly. Also, depending on your technology in your classroom, you could have students use this app. In middle school and high school, sometimes, maybe your administrators are asking you to be more transparent about your standards. It's obviously the direct language of the standard, so it's not necessarily student-friendly, but it could be a quick way for you to actually show them what skills that they are working on in a kind of funner way. So the screenshot right there is what the app looks like when you first open it. The next slide shows you what happens if you click on standards. So it has all of the math, language arts standards, as well as the history, social studies, and science technology standards for writing and reading. Because I'm a science teacher, I clicked on science, which is the second screenshot, and it shows you all grades, so 6 to 8, 9, 10th, and 11 and 12th. This shows you just what the standards look like. It's very streamlined, it's easy to use, it just lists the standards and then gives you like the first sentence of it so you can identify them from the list. And if you click on any of those standards, it expands it and shows you more information about it, including the full language, as well as indicators of students meeting and not meeting that standard. So again, it's basically just for ease of use. The next step, sorry, Lauren, is a lot more fun. It's called Classroom Dojo. I have used this app in my middle school classroom. It's also on a desktop portal, so it's quick for you to be able to switch between those. I'd say that it's most appropriate for elementary and middle school. In middle school, they're just starting to grow out of it a little bit. But it is kind of this one-stop shop for management, positive reinforcement, and there is a pretty big parent communication aspect of it. So Classroom Dojo is available for parents, teachers, administrators, and students themselves. So students can log in and see their progress in their classes, etc. That's what the app looks like when you first open it. And it has this really wide variety of tools that you can use, including, I mean, just to read off the list a little bit, a timer, a random caller. So if you're cold calling in your classroom, if you need random group assignments, which can be helpful for seating charts and stuff. Sometimes you come in and kids have a seating chart and you say, I promise it's random. And they say, Miss, we don't believe you. So you can show them on the screen that it is random. Things like think, pair, share, noise meter. If you want to use this app to manage those things, it's pretty helpful to do that. The biggest aspect of this app that I have personally used is the behavior reinforcement. So this is a demo class that the app generates for you. It's all celebrities. Bradley Cooper, I think, is the first student in there. And I just clicked on the menu that shows you all of the options that you have when using this app. So you can bring parents into the app. You can add co-teachers. If you have a paraprofessional or a co-teacher in your classroom, they can also take control of this. You can take attendance, which I found really helpful to do it on my phone quickly before I had to go back and enter it into the computer later. And you can have some management over the skills that they're working towards. So in Class Dojo, what you can do is you can pick as many skills as you want, but I picked 3 that you can reward these Class Dojo points for, and it makes this really clear, like ping, like positive sound, so all the kids know when either an individual or class gets points, and it can really focus them in and be an indirect reminder to, for instance, get on task or notice that other people are participating or working hard. And you can edit these to be whatever you want them to be for your classroom. So if you have a particular procedure that you're looking to happen a certain way, like in my school, we have to line kids up before they enter the room. So I was using it, if the whole class did it in under a minute, we had a minute to win it, then everybody would get a Class Dojo point. And it was just a really quick buy-in. And if you could see from the demo, I forgot to mention this, but each kid gets a little avatar that's a monster, which is why it's a little bit more appropriate for elementary and middle school. High schoolers might not care as much about this, but they each get their own monster, and they have an option to customize that if you choose to dive in that far, which some of my kids really enjoyed, and some of them pretended that they didn't because they're 11 and 12 and they need to be cool. So you have the option to reward points for positive behaviors. You also have the option to remove points for negative behaviors or behaviors that you're trying to untrain. So I only ever used it for positive reinforcement. I didn't want it to become like a punishment. I wanted it to just be positive reinforcement. But you do have the option to take points away. What's really cool about the app is that if you use it consistently in your classroom, you can generate all kinds of reports about each of your students, which can be a really useful tool if you go to a parent meeting and they're asking, why is my kid's participation grade so low? And you have this extra piece of documentation to say, well, as you can see, every week they didn't get as many participation points as they could have for X, Y, and Z reason. So it's helpful in that, and it's a little bit more streamlined platform to do that in. So the other part of this that I really enjoyed when I was using it for my classroom was the parent communication aspect. And you have the option to create a class story. So you can post pictures, and parents can tune in to see what their students are doing in your class as often as you choose to update this. And it's really easy to invite parents. Classroom Dojo makes it very easy to print a welcome letter or send out invites either via email, or I think you could even do it by text if you have phone numbers. And similarly to Remind, there's a lot of translating options. You can send those messages out in Spanish is the one that I primarily used besides English, but a variety of other languages as well. So you can send out class messages, reminders about assessments or whatever, similar to the Remind app. But it happens in this one-stop shop where there's also information about your child's performance in terms of their behaviors as well. So that's what I use Classroom Dojo for.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So now I have a few options, especially for parent communication with Remind or Classroom Dojo. And so now we're going to turn our attention to Lisa Manzi, who is the technology teacher at Michael Smith Middle School, South Hadley, and she also teaches our MAT Teaching with Technology class here at Mount Holyoke. And so Lisa, if you could turn on your video and unmute your mic.
Hello. Okay. So we're going to start with Socrative or Socrative. I have no idea which way they pronounce it. I hear it different ways. Oh, okay. Slideshow. Okay, so, as a teacher, I'm looking for tools that make my life easier and help me better understand, and get to know what my students need to know and need to work harder on, what they've already mastered. It can cut down on a lot of grading time, and I know our time is very, very valuable. And the increased time that you have, you can spend more time with your students, and it increases the interaction with your students. It gives you quantitative, formative assessments that you can really model around exactly what you're teaching. So you can find, make your own questions and get some real positive feedback to be more aware of student learning. So some of the things you can do on Socrative are you can make your own quizzes. You can edit your own assessments. So you can have the questions specifically for what you've been teaching. And you can, once they're created, you can use them anytime. So it's going to save you a lot of time. You kind of build the assessments on the front end, but then every time you give that assessment, it's there for you to use. So you can use them over and over again if you need to do more review, or you can use them each time you teach that unit. The reporting aspect, it allows you to see it on screen. It allows you to export it to an Excel spreadsheet, to a PDF. So if you need to share for your evaluations, you need to show, how student learning, how students are moving forward. You can do that as well, and you can export it for evaluation purposes. You can create your own classrooms, very easy to join. You can give your classroom a unique name. I think mine is Manzi Tech, and you can see the results in real time as it's happening. The students really do enjoy using it. So let's just take a quick look at how it works. So there we go. Okay, so this is the website. It's just Socrative.com. The student login would be right here, but I'm going to show you from the teacher login portion. But then we're going to do an activity, and you're going to go in. If you can have access to it, I'm going to have you go in on your computer to play a little game. So you just sign in. And these are your options. You have, quizzes. Space race is kind of fun. That's what we're going to try to do with this group. You can do exit tickets, which are really great to set up. Kids love to just kind of quickly log in. They can give you a kind of a check for understanding, and off they go. Multiple choice, true, false, short answers. Your quizzes are all saved, as you can see here. I've got a couple here. There's our village quiz that we're going to do today. You have different rooms. You have one room. If you do pro, you can have multiple rooms. And here's your reports. So you can kind of look at your reports. You can export your reports. They'll save for you right here. And you can look at the results. So right now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to show you how to launch a space race, and hopefully everybody has the ability to participate. And we're going to do the village quiz. I think some of the Mount Holyoke students might have an advantage on this one. And I will say for number of teams, we'll just do 2 teams. So what this one does, the space race, it puts kids into teams. So it's not individual. You'll get their results, but as they answer the questions correctly, you'll see the character move across the screen, and it can get really loud. Let's do a unicorn. All right, no countdown, and you can shuffle the questions if you want. You have a lot of choices here. All right, so we're going to start it. All right, and what you need to do is go to Socrative.com and go in as a student. And let me see if, I don't know if it'll allow me if I'm already logged in. And you have to, the login is Manzi Tech. So that's what's right here on the top of my screen, MANZI TECH. And what you guys can do is when you log in, you can start answering the questions. Oh, the blue team's got the lead. And the magenta team has tied it up. And the blue team's pulling ahead. When you have a classroom full of students, this gets out of hand. So there we go. Magenta is falling behind. I don't know how many are participating from here. Other questions? And is everybody done with their questions? Even if you don't know the answer, just guess. All right, so it looks like the blue team won. Okay, and I went on to reports, and the results are there, and then you can look at your reports here, the village quiz, and I can view the chart. You can get reports. So this is the chart here, and I've got it so it's hiding names, and you would get results on the questions and how people did. All right, so nobody got question 2, 3, or 4 correct. So I would have to go back and reteach that with the students. And if you had an individual one, all the students would be listed there. So what's nice about this is you can see how each individual student does, but you can also see how your questions are answered. So that gives you a lot of feedback so you can improve your teaching by reevaluating how you're answering questions, what's understood, what's not understood. So hopefully that gives you a decent idea. This is a free program as well, so it's nice to use. All right, so I think next we will do Kahoot. All right, so Kahoot is going to be one of those apps that you're going to use with your kids. And if there's an administrator walking down the hall, they will come bursting in because they're going to think there's something going on that's not right, because your classroom is going to be so loud. Kids are cheering, and it gets very exciting. So you can create, it's a fun way to gamify your classroom. You can create a fun game in minutes, but it also helps you reinforce. All right, students love it, easy to use, real-time results. Find out right away. They love to use it for reviewing for tests and quizzes. And then you're able to download the results for analysis, again, similar to Socrative. So you can look at all of your results and kind of change your teaching based on those results. There are some drawbacks. It's only multiple choice. Well, I think they've started to change that though. It requires each student to have internet access. So if your school does not have internet access, it may not work for you. You can use tablets, you can use iPhone, phones. You can download the app. Sometimes when you use the app, and if a kid's using an app in the classroom and a kid is on a computer, the connection is quicker on the computer often, so their answers will go in quicker. And you do get more points for a quicker response, so that can cause some mayhem at times. And it only shows the question on the teacher's computer. So if we were to do one here, you would have to, I'm going to try to see if we can do it here, but I'm not sure if it'll work. So let's see. Let me share my screen. Kahoot. All right, so if you go to create.kahoot, that's where you as a teacher would go. And you can log in again. Very easy to sign up, it's free. And what I liked about Kahoot here is that you have your own Kahoots that you've created. It's a silly name, but so we have a field day. We did, I know somebody that's on here, it used them for field day at our school, and the kids play trivia. This is for a course that I'm teaching right here. So we can do a pre-assessment and we do a post-assessment, and I created a Western Mass trivia for today's activity. So you can kind of save all of your Kahoots so that, again, once you've put that time to build your game, you can use it forever and over. But another thing that you can do is you can find Kahoots. So you can find Kahoots that other people have created. You can use, it does not have to be for educational. You can use this in your home. You can do movie trivia, Disney trivia. Just check the questions before you do it. Like if I teach Scratch, so if I didn't want to make up my own quiz, I could look and see what other people have created. And you can duplicate it and you can make it your own and then edit it. The Western Mass quiz that I have today, I took from someone else. I deleted a few questions and kind of made it my own. So, and then once you've duplicated it, it's your quiz for you to use when you need it. And you can share these with other people. There's a share piece, and the kids really, really, really like to play it. So let us go into my Kahoots. I'm not sure how this will work on your screen. You're gonna see the questions will show up on my screen, and then the answers will come on your screen in colors, and you choose a color. So when I hit play here, and it has this funky music, so I will choose classic, and this is as a teacher, you have all sorts of options. All right, you can get bonuses for answer streak, a name generator, so it would create a name for you. That actually is interesting because there are some students that just, if I don't want them to use their real name, they struggle coming up with a made-up name. So that sometimes is helpful. You can randomize the questions. So if you've given this quiz before and you want to change it up a little bit, you can randomize the order of the questions or the answers, so kids aren't memorizing and not learning. So let's try to play. Okay. All right, so what students would do, this would show up on the screen in the classroom, and they would go to kahoot.it, and it asks for a PIN number. I'll give people a few more minutes. R2D2. I wonder who that is. I wonder if that person's related to me. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so we've got some people joining. And what's also nice about this feature, if you can see, is if you don't like a name, if a student puts up an inappropriate name, not that students would ever put up an inappropriate name, but you could click on it, and you could, if I were to click on AB here, it would delete it, and that person would have to rejoin. I know who El Jefe is what, by the way. So it is a nice way to kind of control the game here. I couldn't find the start button. All right, so I'm going to hit start here. Let's see who wins. Okay. Okay, so what major rebellion took place in Western Mass? Then the answers are on your screen. The answer's on my screen, and you have to pick and click it on your app. When everybody answers. Okay, so the answer was Shays Rebellion. All right, Lily's got the lead. All right, you can see the classroom can go a little crazy. Which city in Western Mass is the home place of volleyball? Okay, Holyoke, that's where I am from. All right, Lily still has the lead. Let's get her. Come on, El Jefe. All right, which city in Western Mass is the home place of basketball? Get more points for being quick. Oh, everybody knows Springfield. All right, which town was originally called Stony Hill when it was part of Springfield? This is a tough one. Okay, the answer is Ludlow. Yes, there's a Stony Hill Road that goes between Ludlow and Wilbraham. AP took the lead. Which college in Northampton is part of the 5-college consortium? Okay, Smith College. I know I should have changed that to Mount Holyoke. Sorry, it was already loaded. All right. Who were the first European settlers to reach Western Mass? All right, AB still has the lead. Okay. Which Native American chief burned down Springfield in 1625? All right, Chief Metacomet. All right. Which city holds a national armory? Which actually just got turned over to the National Park Service this week. Which National Air Force base is in Western Mass? Yep, everybody got that one. We hear the planes flying overhead. Which town has the first U.S. postal zip code? Yep, Agawam. What is it, 01001? Ooh, El Jefe. 3 in a row. He's getting back in the game. Not a competitive person, is he? What is the major river in Western Mass? Come on, people. Yeah, thank you. Which famous children's author is from Western Mass? Dr. Seuss. Okay, so AB was the winner. Lily was second, and R2D2 was third. All right, so you can see that was, I'm hoping you had a little fun doing that. The students really have a great time. They beg for Kahoot. And if you have the right questions, they can be learning while they're having fun. There's absolutely no crime in that. And you can show your results. You can save them. You can do a whole bunch of different things. So that is Kahoot. Probably stop sharing somehow. How do I stop sharing? It's not showing up. I love this. Oh, there it is. Stop share.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. I certainly had a great time during that, and
I was R2D2.
and Allison, I'm gonna get you next time. So at this time, if we have any questions, now is a great time to type them into the chat box. We actually have few enough participants that we might be able to just say them, right? Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll bring Allison back on. So Allison, if you could turn on your video and your microphone, and it'll be a panel type of situation. To start us off, Lauren has a question that she's going to ask, and Lisa and Allison feel free to answer when you're ready.
Okay, so my first question for all of you, and it's with the apps and websites and tools, do you find that the time it takes to set them all up is worth it?
I think it really depends on what you want to get out of them. I've used all of these apps except Classroom because in high school, like Lily said, it's, you know, it has less effect in high school. But I've used Socrative, I've used Kahoot, and so I think it just depends what you want to get out of them. Like Socrative, I stopped using as much because my school's wireless is not super reliable. So, you know, you have to like weigh those things into consideration, like what are your technology limits? But, you know, I think investing in technology is important because it will save you time. It might be like work on the front end of learning how to use it, and maybe it's a little clunky the first time you try and incorporate it, but the more you use it, I think the more seamless it will be. So I do think there's value in trying. And if you're not a particularly, you know, tech savvy person, I think just try one new thing a year. Just baby steps, you know, I think that's really important.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think that especially ClassDojo was the primary app / technology that I've used in my classroom, and I found that I got more out of it if I put in more time. So it's some of these, like Remind is a fairly low entry point, right? Like you can do a little bit of work on the front end and receive a lot of benefits in the end. And things like Classroom Dojo require a little bit more energy and upkeep. But if you put in that time, the benefits are absolutely worth it. So I have found it to be worth it in terms of parent engagement and student buy-in into classroom procedures and routines. So it's worth it, I think.
Hold on. Yeah, I like, I think it's important to I like the idea that you said about starting, you know, one a year. I think sometimes teachers can get overwhelmed. They try to put way too much technology too quickly, and then things don't work and everything is kind of muddled. But if you work on one little piece, and then it might be muddled the first time you do it, and then over time, it will continue to improve and improve. But what's really nice is when you put that time into creating a you know, Socrative quiz or a Kahoot or setting up Classroom Dojo or Remind, once it's set up and you start to see how it helps you and how efficient it makes you, or how much better you can communicate with parents and things like that, then it kind of makes it all worth the hard work on the front end. You also have to make sure that you're using it, you know, it has value, and you're not just using it just to have technology in your class and say, hey, look what I'm doing. It has to enhance your teaching in some way. So.
Okay, thank you all. My final question, I think our final question of the night, is if you had to pick only one of these tools or apps to use in your classroom, which one would it be and why?
Well, you know, naturally, I would pick the Remind app. But that's not really a classroom app either. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really more of a outside of school, purely parent communication tool. So while I love it, if I'm actually in the classroom, I would probably use Socrative, just because you can, you know, I've done exit tickets. I think it's really good. If you need to change your lesson on the fly and you need to adjust your practice, and you know, maybe you're giving a lesson and you're seeing like, you know, I want to know what they're all thinking about this, then you can just open your computer, log in, write the question, and you can tell them, you know, just log in and fill this out. So it allows adjustment to practice really quickly. And I like to use it for formative, like 5-question quizzes. Like maybe it's a little reading quiz on the homework you had the night before, stuff like that. So I would go with that one. I have used Kahoot in classrooms too, and kids do get out of control, but it is better for like test prep. So I would use Socrative more often than I would probably use Kahoot.
I guess I would say for myself, for my class, Remind we've been using it a lot for field trips and things like that. There's not a ton of homework in my class, so Remind is not always used, but I get a lot from the guidance department at my daughter's high school, and so I am a huge fan of Remind for parents. I also, Socrative has been great for my teacher evaluations and for kind of checking for student understanding. Kahoot, one of the things that I didn't share with you, Kahoot now allows you to assign, if the kids have the app, you can assign it actually as a homework assignment. You can open up a Kahoot and they can answer the questions, and they have a specific time, that it's due by a certain time. And it actually now connects with Google Classroom, which I like how they're kind of really gearing it towards education. So I guess the excitement in the classroom and the push towards education, Kahoot would probably be one of my favorites right now.
Yeah, I was definitely swayed by Kahoot. I got really into that, and I have plenty of students who are just as competitive as I am. So I might have to adopt that one as my favorite.
Okay. All right, so I think that's it from us for tonight. And so we just want to close by thanking you, Allison, Lily, my co-host, and Lisa for sharing all your knowledge about these wonderful apps to help teachers improve their organization and classroom engagement from their students. And links to all of these resources will be provided in the post-show PowerPoint that all participants from tonight's session will receive. And we look forward to hearing how you all incorporate these things into your classroom and your practice.
Definitely let us know, especially because Bev will want to know since she's not here right now.
Yeah.
So thank you from all of us here at the Village. We really appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully at our next session in 2 weeks on January 21st, again at 8 p.m. That will be with Kieran Slattery, a fellow MATer from my year, and his topic is how to establish a gender-affirming classroom culture. Thank you so much and have a good night.